Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. This is the Improving Local Authority Building Control. It's the first show and tell that Unboxed are hosting. So it's the fourth one of the alpha phase, but this is focused specifically on the research and development work that we are supporting the project with. So to kick us off, we'll just go over our agenda. We're going to have a review of the workshop. We're going to look at some vision statements that came out of that. Dawn's going to take us through a bit of our research approach. Rianne's going to cover some of the technical investigation we've kicked off, and then there will be hopefully some time for questions and suggestions at the end. Next slide, please. But before we get on to that, we very quickly just wanted to introduce ourselves for anyone who has not yet met us, and also for anyone who might be catching up on the recording later. So my name is Tom Gaylor. I'm a designer working on this project. I've got previous experience working across a range of local and central government services. Most recently, quite a lot of engagement with planning, some of which I think is relevant to the world of building control. Dawn, do you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, hello, I'm Dawn Turner, and I am a designer and researcher, but on this project I'll be carrying out the user research. Pass over to Rianne.
I'm Rianne. I'm the R&D developer on the project. I'll be calling on my colleague Andrew's expertise as and when. Very, very interested in this whole area, and I've also worked on BOPs for those of you who are involved with BOPs.
Hello everyone, my name is Tanika. I'm the delivery manager on the project, and I'm just here to make sure the team has what they need to deliver, and we deliver in what we said we will, on time and in budget. Hand over to Martin.
Martin Evans, I'm head of product at Unboxed. I'll just be supporting the project from a kind of strategic level and as and when needed. Thank you.
Great. So just to give you a bit of a review of our workshop that we held on the 19th of November. So this was very kindly hosted by City of London. We kicked off the day before we got into the meat of discussing the future of building control by looking a bit of the history of building control. So we very kindly were given a guided tour to the sort of origin of building control, the site of the start of the Great Fire of London, and a trip up the monument to sort of inspect it, and we're given some of the background to some of the origins of the earliest building sort of regulations that have existed in the UK, and then follow that up by taking it sort of 500 years or so forward to today, and where we might be going next with that. Next slide, please. As part of the workshop, we started to discuss how we might approach the alpha phase of this project. So there's been a discovery. We now understand much more about who the users of building control services are, what are their needs, where are some of the pain points. We've identified that there's some in the alpha, we want to tackle things that are facing the sort of the customer or the resident, so those people who are making an application for building control, as well as those who are working within local authorities to process those applications and to do the inspections, the surveyors, etc. And then sort of sat around all of this is the idea that there needs to be some data standards that underpin it. And to cover these sort of three areas, the front end, the back end, and the data standards, we're going to focus on one journey, which we're going to prototype as part of this alpha phase. And for that, we've selected, through discussion with the workshop attendees, the full plans journey. So you'll be hearing a little bit more about how we're going to be approaching that in a second. But we're also aware that there is, various other services or journeys or processes that make up a building control service that's provided by a local authority, and we're going to cover these in a higher level. So rather than building a sort of step-by-step prototype, we'll maybe address these at a pattern level. So that will be looking at things like is there an apply journey? Is there a validation step? Is there a booking that needs to take place? Is there a certificate or a register that needs to be held? And trying to map out these kind of core blocks that make up these different journeys, and then identify some best practice that we could use further down the line in a potential beta phase for those. So another bit of that workshop was also discussing the vision statements. And for this, we drew on a vision statement that had been created at Discovery to help us shape two vision statements, one for the wider project and one specifically for this alpha phase. So following feedback, this is our sort of latest iteration. These will probably be revisited and changed as we go through the project, but give you a good idea of sort of what our current thinking is. So for the project vision, so this is the broader arc, including Discovery, including this alpha and hopefully future phases. To set the benchmark for building control through efficient, easy to use, smart digital tools, best practice service patterns, and setting data standards for interoperability, making local authority building control an innovative, trusted service of choice. So we think this covers sort of the broad aims of what we're trying to do, and hopefully this will help us with some of our decision making and prioritization as we go forwards. You know, if anything we're trying to do is trying to help us move in this direction. But we know that we've got this alpha phase, which is focused on a sort of smaller subset of that vision. And so if we have a look at that, our alpha vision is to explore, prototype and test solutions that demonstrate how building control can be improved to deliver a better user experience for customers and staff, improve the quality and usefulness of data, and to position local authorities as the service provider of choice. And so you can see how these two work together. We've got slightly more specific things that we'll be doing in this alpha phase, but hopefully moving us all in the direction of that project vision. If you've got any thoughts on these, any suggestions, do get in touch. We will be looking to sort of revisit these probably halfway through and towards the end of the project as well. With that, I'm going to hand over to Dawn to take us through our research approach.
Great, thanks, Tom. Okay, so since the workshop, we have been looking at the existing journey map for full plans. So this was a great start for us. It was a very thorough journey map, but we've been looking at it to identify the gaps that we've got in knowledge, and also any parts that we need a bit more clarification. We've also been looking at what data requirements are needed along that journey. So what data is being collected, where and by whom. And this is really helping us to develop our research questions that we're going to be taking into our user research in the next upcoming weeks before Christmas. We've also been creating a set of user stories, and that is helping us to understand the needs of those users as they progress through that journey. Okay, and so in terms of recruitment, just want to say firstly, thanks for everyone who's been helping us to do this. Yeah, it's come through quite a difficult task, especially with Christmas almost on our doorstep. But we've done well so far. We have 4 surveyor research sessions lined up. We decided to start with the sort of internal stakeholders, so technical support officers and surveyors, to really, as I say, flesh out that process a bit more for us. If there is anyone who knows of a technical support officer that might be able to help us, preferably outside of London if possible, just to give us a bit more of a spread in terms of our sample, please get in touch. We have a booking link so they can actually book directly with me at a time that suits them. But please get in touch with me on Slack if you can help with that. And then after that, we're going to be moving on to the more client facing, so not client facing, the client stakeholders in the process, so homeowners, builders, architects, and anyone else who is involved. I'd say that will hopefully get on with that before, started with that before Christmas. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, I think just on that, if you have got standing forums, engagement forums, people who are already involved in stuff, then it might be helpful for us to know of that, because they could be useful for us, particularly to sort of get the ball rolling, and then we can maybe go and recruit some of the less involved or the less often heard voices in the building control process.
Okay. I'm just going to pass over to Rianne now.
Okay, so next slide, please. Obviously, for the alpha, we are not going to be building and delivering actual finalized software, but there is a fair amount of technical work to do even at this stage. So I started off, as you can see on the diagram, the data standards piece kind of overlays both the front end and the back end and is hugely important. So we are hoping to make recommendations for data standards, not one of the deliverables for this. So in order to understand what we can recommend for the future, we need to understand what the current state of play is. So I started by evaluating statutory reporting responsibilities, which at the moment are quite spreadsheet based. And then moved on to having a look at previous pilots that have been created around structured, consistent planning data in the past. And then finally, I had a look at how different private sector associations and organisations structure their building control data. It was very interesting. There were some common themes running through all of this. So the next stage here is going to be to recruit people to talk to internal stakeholders, just as Dawn is doing. I'll put a call out on the Slack. And as we move on, we're also going to be looking at data standards around planning data, which obviously we at Unboxed are very, very familiar with how planning data is structured, to see which common elements can be used here. Next slide, please. So in parallel with looking at data standards, something else that I've been doing in the background is creating a coded prototype platform for modelling back office flows. So we're going to be using a variety of different coded and no code prototype tools during this part of the project, but some background work needed to be done in case we needed to provide the more kind of complex back-end task-based flows. So we've done that during this sprint and we'll be building on it during future sprints. And that's me.
What's next?
Dawn, you might just need to come off mute. I think we...
I'm sorry.
had a few internet connection issues, so I think it's caused a bit of problem with our sound.
Okay, so yeah, upcoming, as I mentioned, we have some research sessions booked in next couple of weeks. We're going to be starting sketching for full plans. The key themes that are going to be occurring through that. Be validating that through our research. We're going to be exploring the other journeys, so yet to be determined. High level prototyping